Welcome to the Seeing Red podcast with Andi Turner and Garrett Fulce, checking up on Texas policies and politics with some federal issues thrown in, like the assault weapons ban, interest rate hikes, you get it, but it's mostly Texas, since we can't ignore the big stuff either. And now, here are your hosts, Andi Turner and Garrett Fulce.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Seeing Red. Sorry I missed you guys last week, but I came down with some kind of stomach crud. But Garrett did a great job with Representative Jetton, and I watched it. I thought it was pretty awesome. So if you haven't watched that, please go back and watch it. Garrett did an amazing job, and I found it really informational. And I know Representative Jetton, he's a good guy. So thank you, Garrett, for doing that. I'm sorry I had to bail on you in the middle of the night.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It was a good time to have a conversation with JC, Representative Jetton, to talk a little bit about his race and kind of all the stuff he's been going over. So make sure if you're listening to this on the podcast platform to go follow us on YouTube, and you can actually see the interviews happening. But yeah, it was a good episode. It was our first video episode, and now we're kind of doing it all the time now. So it's an exciting time.
Right. Hence the blank wall, which I'm going to fix up, but bear with us, folks. So anyway, you can find us at facebook.com, the Seeing Red Pod. You can find us at youtube.com, Seeing Red Pod. You can email us either by going to seeingredpodcast.com, and there's a little form, and we answer everybody's email, unless you're soliciting something stupid. And you can email us at hosts, H-O-S-T-S, at seeingredpodcast.com if you prefer to use your own email. And of course on Twitter at the Seeing Red Pod. So with that, Garrett, I'm gonna let you start because you've been more on the ball last week than I have.
Well, there's been a lot going on as the primary season's really heated up. And it looks like since there was a deadline shifted, that a lot of money was has gone into challengers and into those PACs that are helping the challengers to the House incumbents. So there's a lot of stuff happening right now, and a lot of it's the silly season of politics, right? It's something where just rumors fly faster than the truth. No one really knows where, if anything's sourced, and a lot of craziness is happening. So there was a lot of that kind of happening, and then on Sunday, there was an attack levied against a Supreme Court justice.
Yes, I read about that.
Or Court of Criminal Appeals. I think it's Court of Criminal Appeals. Woman, a justice or judge named Michelle Slaughter, basically laid out why she ruled a certain way. Now, there's this issue that Ken Paxton has kind of come home on. Now, there's a lot going on, so let's kind of shift back to what's happening. So, first off, Ken Paxton was impeached by the House of Representatives. 60 Republicans and 61 Democrats voted to impeach Ken Paxton. Longtime viewers of our podcast are going to know that we've gone over that at length while it was happening.
I feel like we need to say, though, for the record, what impeachment by the House actually means.
Sure.
I mean, we've talked about it, but it's been a while.
Sure. A lot of times people think impeachment means removal from office. Impeachment merely means that the House body, the lower body of the legislature,
the lower chamber,
has decided to that there was enough evidence against an office holder in Texas, that statewide office holders, judicial office holders, etc., that it warranted a trial. It's effectively a grand jury. So a grand jury will be someone who decides whether or not somebody should be charged and actually go to trial. And it effectively acts as a grand jury deciding that, yes, there is enough evidence to make this go to trial. And that's what the grand jury does.
Right. They decide whether the evidence it is in fact evidence and is in fact credible enough to go to trial. And that's what a House impeachment, whether we're talking DC or Austin, that's all that means is, hey, we've heard some evidence and we think the Senate should investigate. That's it.
Well, not investigate, to try. That means they've invested. The House means they've investigated and they found enough evidence.
You're correct.
But That's what impeachment is. So there's been like 4 presidents that have been impeached, or 3 presidents that have been impeached 4 times. Nixon would have been impeached and likely removed, but he resigned beforehand, back when there was still some honor among elected officials. Well,
I was there, so
yeah, you were in the Watergate. You were. Anyways.
My father was involved in Republican politics at the time that this was going on, and so I have all the thoughts. That's a story for another show.
That's a story for a different show, maybe a different podcast. More of a historical what was politics like in the old days. No, sorry.
Oh, Garrett's lucky he's not in my house.
Yeah, but so that's what impeachment is. That's what. So the House had determined through their investigation that there was enough evidence to warrant that it go to a full trial. And then they acted as the prosecutor in that trial. So Ken Paxton was impeached. So he is mad at the 60 some odd Republicans that voted to impeach him. And he has endorsed pretty much every challenger to anybody that that voted to impeach him. He's on a little bit of a vendetta. He's going to events all over the state. He's trying to rally the troops and get it out there, and he's going off. In those rallies, so to speak, or those events, he's highlighting some other people who have worked, who've not helped him out in some way, one way or the other. He's mad at Comptroller Glenn Hager because when he was impeached, he was removed from duty work. He was on administrative leave, and Hager has stipulated that based off the law and how it's currently written, he couldn't pay Ken Paxton. So Ken Paxton's mad that he didn't get a little bit of money from the state while he wasn't doing anything. He's mad at, for some reason, Dan Patrick for how he ran the trial, which is kind of funny given that because of how Dan Patrick ran the trial, a lot of people think that's why Paxton got off in the first place.
Wait. Paxton is mad at Patrick?
Seems that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure I'm following this, because I was like,
yeah, I mean,
that was news to me.
Basically there isn't anybody that he's not, but one of the people he's going after is the Court of Criminal Appeals. The Court of Criminal Appeals ruled that there was a law that the legislator passed that said the AG could go after election integrity cases, basically voter fraud cases. And the AG developed a unit and went after it. Well, some other people had filed a suit saying that was unconstitutional. And basically what the Court of Criminal Appeals said is the AG's office gets all their power from the executive department or the executive clause within the Constitution. So the Attorney General is an executive branch office. And it represents the state on civil matters and matters before like federal courts and relating to how the state interacts with the federal government. It is basically the Attorney General is effectively the attorney for the state of Texas on those matters. There is a separate area of the Constitution that establishes county and district attorneys, and those folks represent the state in trial matters. Now, that means that those are the people who represent the state when it comes to criminal issues. And there is no mechanism to allow for the Attorney General to have the first right at a trial or something. This, according to the Court of Criminal Appeals, based off the Constitution. So these justices are looking at it and saying the Constitution has these offices delineated and their responsibilities registered to a given to the given office, and that means that the Attorney General can't prosecute these cases. Now, here's the rub. There are a lot of district attorneys and county attorneys that aren't prosecuting cases. And we're running into a problem here where the Attorney General wants to be able to prosecute these cases because these other people aren't doing their job. And the Court of Criminal Appeals isn't their job to have that political conversation. It's their job to have a conversation about what is or isn't constitutional. And they've said, you might be right. They're not weighing the merits of what the ramifications of the ruling are. They're just saying that the legislature needs to propose a constitutional amendment versus just passing a law, because the Constitution has this laid out pretty clear. And
Okay.
it's pretty much an originalist, non-judicial activist ruling from the court, where it's basically saying this is what the Constitution says, and that's kind of usually what Republicans want from a jurist, is not to just have them, have a third legislative branch that's making policy from the bench. And that's typically what we seek for, or we at least say we speak for. But Paxton's just pissed off that he doesn't have power anymore, primarily. And that's kind of what the issue is. But he's, because of this ruling that he doesn't like, he has supported all the challengers basically to the justices that ruled against him.
Well, he's very busy because he's also trying to take out House members who voted to impeach him.
Yeah, so he's going after a ton of people. And what's
I've shared with you
and go ahead.
I've shared with you some of the texts that I'm getting.
Yeah.
And it like, it's not support this person because they're great on this policy, or maybe they're better on this policy than the incumbent. It's support this person because they voted to impeach me. And I mean, the hubris of that.
Well, that's
not leadership.
I mean, I don't begrudge him going after people who tried to remove him from office. I mean, I think he could have been removed from office, but like, what else is he going to do? He doesn't have an election this year.
Well,
it's a lot of things, and he shows plenty of hubris, but I don't think this is a situation where that's.
You don't go. If you want to get more Republicans elected and more Republicans involved, you do not do this publicly. You do this behind closed doors. There are many, many ways to do this. I've seen it done. Seen it done on both sides of the aisle. You do not do this publicly. You do not come after a Republican incumbent in another chamber who voted in a way that you didn't like. I mean,
it was actively voting to remove him from office. Like, you do not see the hypocrisy in how you're looking at that. They literally voted in a public chamber to remove him from office.
And so that was their vote.
Now he's working to, because of their vote, he's working to get rid of them. I don't begrudge him that fact. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing in that regard. I mean, he's politicking. It's politics. You go after somebody and you aren't successful, you better be prepared for the consequences and be able to justify your vote. And I think these people are more than justified in doing so in their votes. But I mean, they lost ultimately, and he's now he's bringing to bear the consequences that he thinks they can be do it. Will he be successful? I don't think so.
I think
not tremendously.
Bad.
I think he looked bad when they impeached him too.
Well,
but does he look better when he just says, "Oh, it's okay, you can just hit me"? Or do you think that would invite more?
I think he should have. I think he should have stood up. Right? I've been exonerated. Whatever the opposite of being impeached is. The trial has found me not guilty, and I think he should have focused on doing his job and stayed there and made a name for himself and been gracious. He won. Nobody loves.
No. I mean, you don't get hit in the mouth and then you hurt the other cheek and he got bloodied. He got bloodied real good. It doesn't mean he didn't go down, but he got hit real hard.
He got hit. Using
so
your
he wants to hit back.
He did.
No,
and he won.
No, he didn't hit back when he won. That's not hitting back. That's curling up. He just put himself into a defensive posture, and now he's attacking. I mean, I don't see any. There's no. Oh, this happens behind closed door. This fight is not a behind closed doors fight, and it shouldn't be. The public should be very involved with this fight, because what Paxton is arguing is that the people knew about his inaction or about his actions, and that was the reason why he shouldn't be impeached. And then they impeached him. And now they're saying, well, now everyone knows all the stuff that happened, and that the Republican Party can now decide which direction the voters can now decide what direction the party should go. This is an open fight for the soul of the Republican Party. And
but here's the thing.
We've gotten way off topic here. So Michelle Slaughter is one of these Court of Criminal Appeals judges. So she goes off. She kind of lays out that constitutional approach that I mentioned a second ago. From there, we ended up going. There was a person who tweeted something at her from an anonymous account, basically just had like a photo of the globe on it, had like a really generic name, like I think it was like Patty Melt or something. Doesn't matter.
I thought it was G4.
That was the name on it. I think that like the handle was Patty Melt or something. But the account is now private and probably being deleted because the account mentioned the account criticized the ruling and then said something along the lines of "in my office." Well, basically identifying a person as either Ken Paxton or someone who runs a Ken Paxton account. So, and famously or
how did you get there? Because people who didn't read this, so I think you should explain how you got from my office, because like my office is not here, right? So in the tweet where it said, the tweet,
and it was talking about in my doesn't allow my office to do like go after voter fraud. It referred to the office of the Attorney General as my office, and it said the word "my." So it gave the personal ownership of the Attorney General's office grammatically to this person. The tweet was quickly deleted, but the person was able to screenshot it. Michelle was able to screenshot it beforehand, and then she published that on Twitter, which then caused a flurry of activity as people. It was a Sunday night. People are with their families. They're not really on Twitter as much as people start looking at it. And according to what I've seen on Twitter, a lot of people were able to screenshot everything, get videos, screenshots, whatever of the entire account, and have been started going through it. And if you look at other tweets from it, it's clearly at least a Ken Patrick fan account, to say the least.
Ken
Paxton fan account. It is something that goes through it. Also has some weird stuff where it's like really likes Alex Jones a little bit. So that's not great for whomever runs it. The really goes after Governor Abbott and his former staffers, his big rhinos, which Paxton doesn't typically do in public. A lot of kind of stuff like that, and then some just really vicious personal attacks on some other people that aren't substantiated in any evidence that I've seen. So it's one of these things where the contents of this account are quite poor. So it's going to be interesting to see if anyone is actually able to prove whether it belongs to Ken Paxton or not. I don't know. But it does appear in every substantive way that it is. So that's going to be an interesting case to see, because that's going to probably take up a lot of oxygen over the next few weeks during this campaign, or whether this account was Ken Paxton's, and then what were the contents of the account.
So really, for our listeners, what this is the Attorney General is now coming after the courts because he didn't.
He is. He's going. That's one thing for sure. There's a lot of things to take away from it. Kim Paxton's doing a bunch of stuff. He's spreading himself pretty thin, and he's on a vendetta. And whether it's justified or not, I don't have any particular issue with the fact that he's looking to go after people who voted to remove him from office, because people did go after him to remove him from office. He's just doing the same thing to them via the ballot box. I don't begrudge him that. I don't think it's necessarily good for the party, but I don't think he's good for the party generally, because people say he's a conservative hero and he's goes and fights, but he lost a massive court battle with the Biden administration, with the Republican Supreme Court a couple weeks ago, that have now put the Shelby Park and Eagle Pass in a situation where the governor had to quadruple down. And now we have a ton of Republican governors who are backing the governor. But this is all happening.
29? 29,
25. It was 25. I think it was all Republican governors except for the Republican governor of Vermont have supported the Governor Abbott. Now, and that's all good, but that's all because all happened because Ken Paxton failed at the Supreme Court. So now we have this brinksmanship between Republican governors and in the Biden administration, which doesn't seem like it's healthy for the body politic. If Paxton had been competent and able to actually argue the case well, it's a very good chance we could have just won and then forced the Biden administration to do what it needs to do. But he didn't. So now we're in this position where we have a constitutional crisis, and I really wish that we had a good conservative lawyer in there, not just one who says all the right things, but can actually do the legal work instead of just, the person goes out and fights. But if you're throwing haymakers all the time and you're missing and you're just taking body blows all the time, you're going to go down. I don't care how much you love, how much the person loves you and defends you. Somebody always goes out and fights for you, but gets their ass kicked. What good are they to you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And, he's causing trouble and where he doesn't need to be. Like, there are other things he should be and can be doing. And my opinion, Garrett, you may or may not share this, but I don't think that a voter should be voting for a legislator, a House member or senator based on he voted against me, Ken Paxton. No. How did they vote on the issues you care about? Taxes or whatever your issues are.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to choose for the voters which issues are important to them. That's how the system works. That's the feedback. And if voters are telling their representatives that this issue matters to them, they need to have that feedback. Yeah, if that issue matters to the voters, it matters to the voters. I am not here to say how the voters feel about something. And if Ken Paxton wants to raise that issue,
you're right.
Is important. That's it. This is politics. He's politicking. It feels wrong to you because
to me, this feels like Ken Paxton is out for blood. You and I can disagree about how we can get that blood, but the strategery behind it. But he's out for blood. I don't think if you have a legislator that is in office and has voted on all the issues, policy issues that you care about, that Ken Paxton having a temper tantrum, and that's what this is, okay, should factor into your vote. Now, if you can provide me with some public policy area, whether it's taxes or social issues or Second Amendment or voter fraud or whatever, that, that's not what he's doing. He's out there saying, I was attacked and he attacked me, so don't vote for him or her or whatever. And no, for me, no, you vote for somebody based on, do they represent the things you care about? And a personality is not, to me, the criteria for which someone should be casting a vote for or against. So basically what Ken Paxton is saying is,
we got it. We get it. I don't think that, and I think we just are going to disagree on this point. For you as a voter, it doesn't matter to you. For other people's, it does, and it's our job whenever we're talking about persuasion or whatever else to meet people where they're at. So you might not think that they should care, but they do care, or Paxton's trying to get them to care, and you have to have that conversation. To just kind of dismiss it out of hand seems like it's foolish, and it seems kind of like what a lot of people are trying to do when it comes to this issue electorally, and I'm not sure how successful not putting up any defense is going to be at the ballot box, but we're going to see how that plays out on March 5th. But as we move on to our next little topic, friend of the show, Mark McCaig with the Texas Voice put out a new article Monday. Andi, can you give us a little breakdown of what that article was going over?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, it's a little bit. So the headline, if you guys want to go to the Texas Voice and read the whole article by Mark McCaig, GOP officials condemn anti-Muslim ad campaign. And so an ad campaign, which was launched, and I'm reading right from the article, so I don't get it wrong, which was launched by the Texas Family Project, which has also made false claims that certain Republican legislators had supported child gender transitioning, when in fact those legislators had voted to ban transitioning and gender modification. The mailers sent by the Texas Family Project to voters in targeted districts across Texas read, "Do you want your tax dollars going to celebrate Muslim holidays?" Said legislator, stipulated legislator, does, and we don't want Sharia law in Texas. Well, as it turns out, so for you guys that are not like political geeks like Garrett and I, there's legislation that makes law, and then there's like honorary legislation. It's technically still legislation, but it's like honoring Garrett Fulce for for his first fabulous child. And thank you for the new picture.
And then sometimes those honorary things are that simple. It's honoring staff or honoring Andi Turner for being a great director of something. It's literally that kind of thing. Or it's honoring somebody for getting their 75th wedding anniversary. It's literally
yes, and there are those, and or 50th whatever. And I mean, really, these are honorary things. They mean nothing except to the person or community that receives them. There's nothing binding in the law.
Yes.
It's just honorary. It's like here's your birthday card, right? That's what it is. So yes, they did. Certain legislators. The mailers go on to cite 3 honorary resolutions, which isn't even legislation. Honorary resolutions.
Right.
Okay, all right, with no legal effect, and a website run by Luke Macias. Oh. Gosh, Garrett, where do we know Luke Macias from?
I try not to.
But
he is the gentleman that after Representative Strickland was unceremoniously removed from his position as leader of Defend Texas Liberty, Luke Macias took over and as the head of that as the head of Defend Texas Liberty. He's also has a podcast himself.
He does,
apparently. I don't watch it.
Look at me.
I think it's on Scorecard stuff. If you want to go check it out, I don't know. Might as well plug him a little bit if we're going to talk about him. But he has some controversy surrounding him as well. He's technically a political consultant, though I don't know how often. I don't think he's very successful. I don't think a lot of his clients have won. But a lot of political consultants lose. It's kind of part and parcel with the industry. So that's how we know Luke Macias. He's kind of a losing political consultant. Podcaster.
Anybody's got it right, and anybody that's got anything to do with Defend Texas Liberty today doesn't know how to read a room. How's that?
Well,
I'm trying to be polite.
Yeah,
trying to be polite. And you all remember Defend Texas Liberty? We started this, a couple months ago because they met with a nationally known not just anti-Semitic, but racist, bigoted, racist. Pick your word. I don't like people of color person, and it wasn't just a meeting; it was like 6 hours. So it was a hot mess, and of course, nobody would actually talk about what the actual contents of the meeting were.
Yeah. And
Strickland got bounced, and so
Macias took over.
And Macias is taking over, and I would imagine struggling at best because among the Tony Tinderhill, I'm sorry, Representative Tony Tinderhill, actually was one of the recipients, it looks like. And he posted a statement on Twitter announcing he had voted against the resolution. And as the Fort Worth Star-Telegram reported, Tinderholt later deleted the statement and apologized to the Muslim community. To his credit, he sat down with the leaders of the Muslim community in his district and had a long talk and apologized because he didn't understand. I don't think he really had a grasp on what was happening. And how that happened, how that came to be, I'm not indicting him on this. I don't know how that came to be, but he did.
I might, because if we go back to last week's episode, JC talks about Representative Tenderholt. Representative Chan talks about Representative Tenderholt at length, and about kind of Tenderholt's tactics, which is where he does this kind of thing, where he will find honorary resolutions or add superfluous amendments to something, and then he'll hit people for it in the primaries. And he tells you, well, this is going to be a primary vote. Oh, we're going to make this a primary issue. Well, you'd think when Tenderholt got dinged on this issue that like this in the press, where he had to do a full apology tour, you'd think they probably wouldn't use it still. But these people don't know how to read the room, and they sent it. Here's an interesting thing: they sent this mailer out in Fort Bend County against JC Jetton. They sent it out other places as well. They sent it against JC. JC carried some of these resolutions. What's interesting is that Fort Bend County not only has a large Muslim population, there are several candidates in the Republican primary who will be on the ballot because they're going to win their elections that are Muslims.
I mean,
so you're asking Republican voters in Fort Bend County to not only to vote against JC because he, said, I get, what was it, like congratulating Muslims on a successful Ramadan.
Yeah, it's something.
Like congratulating Christians on a successful Christmas, or Jews on a successful Yom Kippur. It's just, hey,
or Passover or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Great. It's literally, hey, good job. I mean, it's not even good job. It's congratulations. You had a major milestone in your community. We recognize that. That's all these resolutions were, and they're making this like, oh, it's the most Muslim-friendly session of all time.
Which,
okay, I mean,
you have the right in this country to we have freedom of religion, and anybody who is judging anybody by their religion has utterly lost their minds. You don't judge Catholics based on, I don't know, like the Spanish Inquisition.
I don't know, but so here's the thing. Here's the thing, Andy. What they're trying to do, though, is there are some people who do, and they're trying to inflame those people, and they think there's enough of them that's going to knock out some of these candidates with this mailer. It doesn't matter how it is, and that just kind of tells you more about the character of the people who are running these organizations. They'll meet with an anti-Semite. It tells you about the character of the people. About the character of these organizations. They'll meet with anti-Semites. They'll send out anti-Muslim mailers. They'll campaign against people for passing legislation to increase funding to children's emergency rooms. They do not care about common decency or whatever else. They just care about power, and they care about it being white, and they care about it being like quote unquote evangelical Christian, but only the kind of flavor that they enjoy. So they just want power for themselves, not just political power, but absolute power. And that's what they're going after. These people are not good. These people are not healthy, of sound mind, or not necessarily a sound mind, but these people are depraved, is what I would say. These people are not people who should be welcome in polite society. They should not be welcomed, and you should not associate yourself with people like this who will attack someone for celebrating Ramadan, or who hang out with people who celebrate the death of millions of Jews. These aren't people who you want to hang out with.
Right. No, I agree. I'm right there with you, pal. Ellen, this is interesting. The Texas Family Project and I just caught this. The Texas Family Project is part of a network of organizations tied to the political consulting firm formerly known as Pale Horse Strategies, and political megadonors Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilkes. Yep. Pale Horse Strategies was recently forced to rebrand into West Fort Worth Management after revelations that it hosted a notorious anti-Semitic and white nationalist commentator Nick Fuentes, Other groups that are part of this network, such as Texas Gun Rights and Texans for Fiscal Responsibility, have also been criticized for engaging in deceptive ad campaigns targeting Republican lawmakers. One of the lawmakers targeted by these mailers faces an opponent with very close ties to defend Texas liberty. State Representative Ellen Troxclair faces a primary challenge from former state representative Kyle Biederman. And I believe, check me if I'm wrong, but I believe Kyle Biederman and Tony Tinderholt are kind of close in philosophies.
They were very close in the legislature when Biederman was in the legislature. Biederman is, of course, famous for dressing up as gay Hitler for Halloween one year and posting it on wherever. Yeah, there's it's like him wearing a Hitler outfit with a pink feather boa. So he's that was the kind of person we're dealing with here. That shows you the kind of discernment that Kyle Biederman shows.
I don't even know what to do with that. Wow. Okay. So anyway, Kyle Biederman is trying to get reelected or whatever. According to records on file with the Texas Secretary of State's office, and again, this is from Mark McCraig's article on the Texas Voice. According to records on file with the Texas Secretary of State's office, Biederman is listed as a member of the board of directors of Texans for Fiscal Responsibility, legal name is Texas Taxpayer Advocates, and the Strong Borders Foundation. Both of these organizations have received funding from Defend Texas Liberty.
Yeah,
Biederman
shocking.
also received a $75,000 campaign contribution from the Texas United for a Conservative Majority PAC, which Dunn and Wilkes also fund.
Yeah, that seems to be the new Defend Texas Liberty PAC.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the crazy stuff has been happening with all of these issues. And it's going to be interesting to see how all this stuff happens long term. So, or how this impacts the primary election. But we'll get to that next week. Hopefully, I think we have a guest lined up. I'm looking forward to it. But we'll have some more guests between now and the primary. Once again, like us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. It's at The Seeing Red Pod. YouTube.com/at The Seeing Red Pod. And, we'd love to see you there. Find us on, send us an email at host@seeingredpodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. But we'll see you next week. And we look forward to talking to you more. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
You've been listening to the Seeing Red podcast. It's always Texas politics and beyond. We present the facts and opinions. The Seeing Red podcast with your host, Andi Turner and Garrett Fulce. Thank you, and tune in next week. And please do us a favor. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode.